My name is Dr. Emily Harper, a retired police canine trainer and medical detection specialist with over 28 years of experience working with law enforcement canines. I've trained dogs to sniff out everything from narcotics to explosives. And in the last decade of my career, I focused on medical detection, teaching canines to identify internal bleeding, seizures, even early signs of cancer. I've seen dogs save lives in ways that defy explanation. But one case stands out above the rest. It's the story of Titan, a Belgian Malinois, and his handler, Officer Jessica Bennett, and how a single bark in a crowded mall uncovered a hidden danger that saved 2 lives. This isn't just a story about a dog. It's a testament to the power of instinct, the bond between a canine and their handler, and the miracles that happen when we listen to what we can't see. It was a damp October morning in 224, the kind of gray, drizzly day that's standard in Portland, Oregon. I'd just finished a consulting gig with the Portland Police Bureau, helping their canine unit refine their medical detection protocols when I got a call from Jessica Bennett, one of my former trainees. Jessica was a rising star in the department. Smart, intuitive, and fiercely dedicated to her canine partner, Titan, a 4-year-old Belgian Malinois I'd trained myself. Titan was exceptional. Even among the elite dogs I'd worked with, he had a nose for blood, internal bleeding, to be precise, that had already saved lives, from car crash victims to a hiker with a ruptured spleen. But what Jessica told me that morning was unlike anything I'd heard before. Titan wouldn't stop barking at a pregnant woman in the mall, Jessica said, her voice a mix of confusion and urgency. He's never acted like this. Doc Harper, I think he sensed something, but I don't know what to do. I told her to trust her instincts and Titan's, and to follow up immediately. What happened next would change lives, spark a medical revolution, and prove once again that a dog's nose can sometimes outsmart our best technology. Let's rewind to that morning. Jessica and Titan were on a routine patrol at Washington Square Mall, a bustling shopping center just outside Portland. The mall had been dealing with a string of organized retail thefts. Professional crews hitting high-end stores, snatching electronics and designer goods. Store management had requested a canine team after a suspect was caught that morning near the Nordstrom entrance, and Jessica and Titan were the best in the department for the job. Jessica clipped Titan's vest on. The black nylon emblazoned with Portland PD K9 in bold white letters. His dark coat gleamed under the fluorescent lights of the precinct as he stood still, amber eyes locked on her, ready for the day's work. Let's roll. Partner, Jessica said, scratching behind his ears. Titan's tail flicked once, a sign of acknowledgement. They arrived at the mall around 10:30 a.m. The parking lot already packed with early holiday shoppers. Jessica radioed in, her voice calm and professional. Unit K72, on scene at Washington Square Mall. Responding to theft suspect in custody, Titan exited the SUV with his usual precision, walking in perfect heel position as they entered through the glass doors. The mall was a sensory overload. Pop music blaring, kids laughing, the hum of conversation. But Titan ignored it all, his focus razor-sharp. Shoppers stared as they passed, some pointing, others stepping back nervously. A little girl tugged at her mom's sleeve, whispering, "Look, a police dog." Titan didn't flinch. He was used to the attention. Mall security chief, Greg Lawson, met them near the entrance, a stocky man with a clipboard and a tense expression. "Thanks for coming, Officer Bennett," he said, gesturing to a bench where a young man sat, handcuffed and glaring at the floor. A pile of stolen electronics, still tagged, sat beside him. Caught him red-handed near Nordstrom. "We think he's part of a bigger crew hitting malls across the city. The manager wants to press charges." Jessica nodded, her attention shifting to the witnesses nearby. An older man with a walker, a teenage store clerk, and a pregnant woman in a green maternity dress, her hands resting on her belly. She looked about 8 months along, her face pale but composed. "That's Emily Carter," Greg said, pointing to the pregnant woman. "She's the one who saw the guy removing tags in the electronics section." Jessica approached the witnesses, Titan at her side, his steps smooth and controlled. "Mrs. Carter," she began, "I'm Officer Bennett with Portland PD. I understand you witnessed the incident. Can I take your statement?" Before Emily could respond, Titan's demeanor changed so suddenly it caught Jessica off guard. His body stiffened. ears perked, nostrils flaring. Then came the bark. Not his usual alert for narcotics or contraband, but a deep, urgent, insistent sound. One bark, then another, then a low whine. He lunged toward Emily's stomach, not aggressively, but with a wild intensity that startled everyone. Emily stepped back, one hand flying to her belly. What's wrong with him? Is he going to bite? Her voice trembled, echoed by gasps from the growing crowd. Phones were out, filming the scene. Jessica's face flushed with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry, ma'am," she said, tugging Titan's lead. Titan, heel, but he didn't stop. He barked again, his body shaking with urgency. Eyes locked on Emily's abdomen. Greg stepped in, his tone sharp. "Officer Bennett, maybe you should remove your dog. This is causing a scene, and you're scaring a pregnant woman." Jessica gave Titan a firm command. "Titan, sit." He obeyed, but his muscles were taut, his gaze still fixed on Emily. He let out a soft whine, a sound Jessica knew well. It was the same whine he'd used on rescue missions, when he'd found victims trapped under rubble or bleeding internally. "Mrs. Carter, are you feeling okay?" Jessica asked, her voice softer now, trying to read Emily's expression. "Any discomfort? Pain?" Emily hesitated, her hand still on her belly. "Not really, just the usual backache. Some pressure. The baby kicked when he barked, but I'm fine." Jessica's mind raced. Titan wasn't just a patrol dog. He was trained in medical detection, a skill I'd spent years honing with him. He'd alerted to internal bleeding and crash victims, identified a diabetic coma in a hiker, even pinpointed a brain aneurysm in a jogger at a park. "Mrs. Carter," Jessica said carefully, "Titan is trained to detect medical emergencies, internal bleeding, trauma, things like that. He's never been wrong. Are you sure you're feeling okay?" Emily's husband, David, arrived then. A tall man in a flannel shirt, his face etched with concern. "What's going on?" "We're already late for her OB appointment." Jessica turned to him. "Your wife's fine for now, but I'd recommend letting a medic check her vitals. Just as a precaution." David frowned, looking from Titan to Emily. "Is that really necessary? She's been fine all morning." "It's quick," Jessica said, "and Titan's alerts have never been wrong." After a tense moment, David agreed. A mall EMT, a young woman named Sanchez, arrived with a medical kit. She checked Emily's pulse and blood pressure, asking routine questions. BP's slightly elevated, but within normal range. Sanchez concluded, "All clear, but maybe rest until your appointment." Jessica nodded, relieved but uneasy. Titan remained tense, whining softly, as Emily and David walked away toward the exit. He strained at the lead, trying to follow. "Titan, stay," Jessica commanded. He obeyed, but his body language screamed that he didn't want to let her go. Greg cleared his throat. "Officer Bennett, I'll need an incident report. This caused a disruption, and the department will want an explanation." Jessica handled the paperwork, processed the shoplifting suspect, and left the mall with a knot in her stomach. Titan hadn't made a mistake. She was sure of it, but she had no evidence, no justification for his behavior. Back at the precinct, Jessica filed her arrest report and started a draft for the canine incident, but her fingers hesitated over the keyboard. In 4 years, Titan had never given a false alert. He'd found a toddler buried under debris after an earthquake, detected a ruptured spleen in a car crash victim, even saved a jogger by alerting to a brain aneurysm before symptoms appeared. And now, a pregnant woman, a warning everyone had ignored, including her, that night, unable to shake the feeling. Jessica sat in her patrol SUV, with Titan in the passenger seat, watching the rain streak down the windshield. She pulled up Emily Carter's name on her phone, finding her public profile in seconds. Address listed. A condo in the Pearl District. She looked at Titan. "You've trusted me every step of the way," she said softly. "It's time I trust you." The Pearl District was all sleek high-rises and trendy cafes, the kind of place young professionals flocked to. Jessica parked across from Emily's building, her civilian jacket zipped over her uniform, badge tucked away. Titan sat upright in the passenger seat, eyes locked on the entrance, his body tense and expectant. "This is probably nothing," Jessica said aloud, more to herself than to Titan. "But if I'm wrong, it's my badge on the line." Titan didn't respond, but his focus urged her forward, just like it had at the mall. The building's lobby was modern, with marble floors and a concierge in a pressed suit. "I'm sorry. No pets in the common areas," he said firmly. Jessica showed her badge. "Jessica Bennett, Portland PD. I'm following up on an incident involving one of your residents, Emily Carter. Just need a few minutes." The concierge's demeanor shifted. "Of course. Officer Bennett, let me call up to their unit." He dialed, spoke briefly, and nodded. You can head up. 15th floor. Apartment 1504. The elevator ride was quiet, the hum of the cables mixing with the patter of rain against the windows. Jessica's mind raced. She had no warrant, no official case. This was a courtesy follow-up. Off the books. If anyone complained, she'd be in hot water. But Titan's behavior wasn't random. He'd sensed something, and she couldn't let it go. David opened the door, recognition crossing his face, followed by confusion. Officer Bennett, is there a problem? Not exactly. Jessica replied, I wanted to follow up about what happened this morning. Titan's behavior was unusual, and I thought it best to check in. Make sure everything's okay. David's eyes narrowed. My wife's resting. She's had some discomfort, but the doctor said that's normal in the 3rd trimester. I won't take long, Jessica said. Titan won't be a problem, I promise. After a brief hesitation, David stepped aside. Come in. The apartment was modern, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River. Emily lay on a couch, her expression tired. She looked up in surprise as Jessica and Titan entered. You stayed? She asked, her voice soft. Is something wrong? Titan's reaction was immediate. He pulled forward on the lead, more urgent than ever, his nose working furiously as he locked onto Emily's abdomen. This time, he didn't bark, he whined. A long, low, urgent sound I've heard in countless rescue missions. It's the sound a canine makes when they find someone in danger, trapped, bleeding, dying. I'm sorry for the unannounced visit, Jessica began, keeping Titan in a tight heel. But Titan is trained to detect blood, especially internal bleeding. He's alerted to victims under collapsed buildings, even to a ruptured aneurysm. And today, he's alerting again. Emily shifted, clearly unsettled. I told you, I feel okay, just tired. Some pressure. I figured it was normal. Jessica looked at David. You said she has an OB appointment at 3:00. He nodded. Yes, but we were thinking of going early. Her back pain's been getting worse. It's getting worse now, Emily added, wincing, and I felt dizzy when I stood up earlier. Jessica took a slow breath. I'm not a doctor, but Titan's never been wrong. If he's alerting this strongly, something's happening. Something internal. I recommend calling an ambulance. If it's what I think, you don't have time to wait. David looked between Jessica and Emily, skepticism in his eyes. This is ridiculous. With all due respect, he's a dog. Titan let out another sharp whine, then pressed gently against Emily's legs, refusing to move. She gasped, gripping her belly. David, it really hurts now. That was enough. Jessica pulled out her phone and dialed 911. This is Officer Jessica Bennett, badge 8271. I'm requesting an ambulance for a pregnant woman at 1504 Pearl District Towers. Possible obstetric emergency. Patient is 32 weeks, experiencing dizziness, increasing abdominal pain, and my canine partner is medically trained in alerting to possible internal bleeding. Yes, we'll be waiting. David helped Emily into a more upright position, his face pale. He knew, at the mall, he murmured, more to himself than anyone. We thought he was just acting out. The minutes felt like hours. Titan stayed by Emily's side, his gaze focused, body tense, but composed. His whines had stopped, but I could tell from Jessica's description he was holding back, his instincts screaming to act. The ambulance arrived, paramedics rushing in with a stretcher. Vitals are unstable, one said, checking Emily's blood pressure, BP dropping, fetal distress possible. Jessica spoke up. She said the pain started this morning. She was checked by a mall medic. Nothing found. Titan detected something then, and he's escalating now. The lead paramedic turned sharply. Wait, this is Titan from the I-5 pile-up rescue. Jessica nodded. Yes, then we're not taking chances. Load her up. Alert obstetric trauma at OHSU hospital. They've got the best high-risk team. They moved quickly, securing Emily onto the stretcher and starting IV fluids. As they rolled her out, she reached weakly for Jessica. Thank you, she whispered. If you hadn't come... David grabbed a jacket and followed, barely sparing Jessica a glance. The ambulance took off, lights and sirens blaring. Jessica climbed back into her vehicle, Titan settling into a spot. Still alert, her radio crackled. Unit K72, update from OHSU transport. Patient condition worsening. BP continuing to drop. Possible obstetric hemorrhage in progress. ETA 5 minutes. Jessica's heart pounded. You were right, partner, she said quietly. You were right all along. At OHSU hospital, the trauma team was ready. Emily was rushed inside, and Jessica parked, securing Titan in the SUV. A tall woman in scrubs approached. I'm Dr. Rachel Nguyen, obstetric trauma. You're the officer with the medical detection K9. Yes, Jessica confirmed. Titan's trained to detect internal bleeding. He indicated the upper left quadrant of her abdomen. He's very precise. We're prepping for an emergency C-section, Dr. Nguyen said. If your canine can help us localize the bleed, we might save critical time. They brought Titan into the trauma bay. A rare move, but OHSU had a history of working with canine units. Titan moved with flawless control, weaving past equipment and staff until he reached Emily. He sniffed methodically, paused, then sat, placing his paw gently on the left side of her belly. Upper left quadrant. Dar, Nguyen confirmed. Possible left-sided abruption. Let's go now. As they wheeled Emily toward surgery, David turned to Jessica, his face pale. They said if we'd waited even 2 more hours... He couldn't finish. She's in good hands, Jessica said, her voice catching. You got here in time. The operating room doors closed. Jessica stood in the hallway with Titan, her thoughts racing. If she hadn't trusted her partner, if she'd gone by the book and ignored his alert, Emily and her baby might not have made it. Titan sat beside her, his posture relaxed for the first time that day. He knew. He always knew. The surgical waiting room was quiet, the kind of heavy silence that only hospitals can hold. Jessica sat in a corner, her badge tucked away, her posture weary but alert. Titan lay at her feet, head on his paws, calm now that the emergency was in other hands. David paced nearby, occasionally glancing out the rain-streaked window. They'd been waiting for just over 40 minutes when a nurse came in with an update. The surgery was underway. Emily was stable, and the baby had shown signs of distress, but was holding on. It was neutral reassurance, the kind that doesn't promise too much. But David's tension didn't ease. He paused in front of Jessica, his voice low. You didn't have to stay. I wanted to, she replied. So did Titan. David looked down at the dog, whose eyes flicked up in acknowledgement. I didn't believe him. Not this morning. I thought he was just stressed. Maybe reacting to the crowd. I was wrong. Jessica nodded. Most people would have thought the same. It's hard to believe something you can't see, but Titan's been trained to detect internal bleeding, and he's never given a false alert. Not once. David sat beside her, rubbing his face with both hands. How is that even possible? She had a checkup last week. Everything was fine. She was experiencing a concealed placental abruption, Jessica explained, drawing on what I'd taught her about Titan's capabilities. It's when the placenta starts separating from the uterine wall, but the bleeding happens internally. Behind the placenta, there are no visible symptoms, sometimes not even pain, until it's too late. I've seen this in my work with medical detection dogs. Dogs like Titan can smell biochemical markers, specific proteins, hormones, microscopic traces of blood that our best machines often miss. Titan didn't just smell blood, he prioritized it based on severity, a skill that saved dozens of lives in the field. David let out a slow breath, overwhelmed. Before he could respond, the doors opened, and Dr. Nguyen stepped in, her scrubs wrinkled, but her eyes calm. Mr. Carter, she said. David stood immediately. Your wife is stable, Dr. Nguyen said, offering a small smile. We performed an emergency C-section and controlled the bleeding from the placental abruption. The situation was serious, but we got to her in time. David exhaled sharply. And the baby, your son, was born at 32 weeks, premature but breathing on his own with supplemental oxygen. His vitals are strong. It's a very good sign. David choked back a sob, his shoulders shaking with relief. Jessica stayed seated, Titan watching silently as the moment unfolded. Can I see them? David asked. You can see your wife in recovery in about 30 minutes. Dr. Nguyen replied. She's resting now. Your son will remain in the NICU for observation, but you can visit once the nurses prepare the area. She turned to Jessica. Officer Bennett, your intervention made a critical difference today. The pathology confirmed a concealed abruption in the upper left quadrant, exactly where Titan indicated. The bleeding was extensive, but we caught it before fetal oxygen was compromised. Jessica nodded, her throat tight. Titan deserves the credit. I almost didn't listen to him. Doctor, Nguyen gave Titan an appreciative look. Well, I hope you're both ready for some attention. The hospital's administration wants to discuss a partnership with your department. This kind of detection could be groundbreaking for high-risk pregnancies. After Dr. Nguyen left, David sat down again, the chaos fading into exhaustion. I keep playing it back, he said. This morning, we almost ignored it. We almost walked away. You didn't, Jessica replied. That's what matters. The recovery room was dim, filled with the steady beeping of monitors. Emily lay propped up, pale but conscious, an IV in her arm and an oxygen tube under her nose. When she saw Jessica and Titan enter behind David, her eyes brightened. "You stayed," she said softly. "We wanted to make sure you were okay," Jessica replied. Emily looked at Titan. He knew something was wrong, even when I didn't feel anything. The doctors told me the placenta was separating, and there was no bleeding anyone could see. They said if you'd waited another hour or two, it might have been too late. David nodded, his voice rough. "You saved them both." Emily reached for Jessica's hand. "I can't thank you enough, either of you." Jessica offered a small smile. Titan was the one who wouldn't let it go. He remembered something the rest of us missed. Emily's gaze drifted to the NICU window, where a tiny baby lay in an incubator, swaddled in tubes and monitors. "His name is Ethan," she said. "We decided on his middle name too, Bennett. After you." Jessica blinked, caught off guard. "You don't have to do that." "We want to," David insisted, "because if not for you, if not for Titan, he wouldn't be here." Neither of them would. Titan stepped forward slightly, his nose gently touching Emily's hand, where it lay on the blanket. She smiled through tears. "He remembers," she whispered. "He knows." Later, as Jessica stood in the hospital hallway, watching nurses move between NICU stations, she thought not about reports or procedures, but about the extraordinary instinct of the partner beside her. Titan's calm demeanor hadn't changed, but I could tell from Jessica's account there was a quiet pride in the way he held himself, as if he understood what they'd accomplished. The hospital invited her to speak with the administrator the following week about a canine detection program for obstetrics, a pilot project involving weekly visits, risk screening, and research. Jessica agreed. It had been 35 days since that chaotic morning at the mall. OHSU hospital invited Jessica and Titan back for a special occasion. Ethan Bennett, Carter, was going home. Jessica adjusted Titan's temporary therapy dog vest as they stepped into the lobby, a soft blue patch identifying him as part of the hospital's new program, one created because of him. In the NICU family room, a small gathering had formed. Nurses, doctors, and the neonatal team stood around the Carter family. Emily, now stronger, sat in a wheelchair per hospital policy, her newborn son cradled in her arms. David stood proudly behind her, one hand on her shoulder. As Jessica and Titan entered, Emily's face lit up. "There they are," she said, her voice bright with emotion. "The guests of honor." David stepped forward, smiling broadly. "Officer Bennett, Titan, you made it." "Wouldn't have missed it," Jessica replied, nodding to the staff. She glanced at Titan, who sat without a command, his gaze fixed on this baby in Emily's arms. "Dr. Nguyen emerged, her demeanor relaxed. "Perfect timing. We were just about to begin a little send-off. Ethan Bennett. Carter is going home today. He's exceeded every benchmark. Feeding, breathing, weight gain. He's more than ready." There was a soft ripple of applause, subdued but heartfelt. David lifted Ethan, swaddled in a blue blanket, and crouched next to Titan, letting the dog see the baby. Titan remained still, his posture respectful. After a moment, he leaned in, sniffed the blanket, and lowered his head slightly. A gesture of recognition I've seen in K9s after a successful mission. The nurses watched in awe. "He remembers," Emily said softly, her voice catching. "He knows he's the one he saved." Dr. Laura Kim, a researcher from OHSU's medical detection program, stepped forward. She'd been observing Titan over the past month, conducting tests to understand his capabilities. Titan's contribution to this hospital and to medical science can't be overstated. She began. "We've known dogs possess extraordinary olfactory senses, but what Titan did pushes the boundaries. He detected internal bleeding before any external symptoms appeared, differentiating it from normal pregnancy biomarkers. That's something no medical device can do. We're launching the pilot program next week." Dr. Nguyen added, "Officer Bennett and Titan will visit our high-risk pregnancy clinic twice a week. Patients who consent will be screened using Titan's capabilities. We'll document every alert and cross-reference with imaging and lab results. The potential is enormous." Emily leaned forward and stroked Titan's head. He closed his eyes briefly under her hand. "I've done a lot of reading since that day," she said. "Most women with concealed abruptions don't make it to the hospital in time. And even when they do, the baby often suffers from oxygen deprivation. But Ethan's tests are all normal, because Titan alerted us before anything started to shut down." David handed Jessica a small package. "We wanted to give you something from us, not the department. Our way of saying thank you." Inside was a silver medallion shaped like a badge etched with the words, Canine Hero Titan, Ethan Bennett Carter, born October 15th. Beside it was a photo of Ethan in the NICU, his tiny fingers curled around Emily's thumb. Jessica blinked back emotion. Thank you, she said quietly. This means more than I can say. Darn. Kim stepped closer. Titan's data is being compiled for a study. We've submitted our findings to the American Journal of Medical Detection, and we're expanding research to include how dogs like Titan might help with other conditions. Internal hemorrhaging, early stroke signs, even some cancers. David looked at Jessica. Would you and Titan consider being Ethan's godparents? I know it's unconventional, but you didn't just save his life. You changed all of ours. Jessica stood silent for a moment. Stunned, Titan tilted his head, sensing the shift in mood. We'd be honored, Jessica said, both of us. Later, as the Carter family prepared to leave, Jessica accompanied them to the entrance. Ethan was secured in his car seat, bundled and drowsy, his breath steady. At the curb, Emily turned one last time. The doctor told me yesterday, if we'd waited until our original appointment, we wouldn't have made it. Not me, not Ethan. Jessica squeezed her hand gently. You listened, even when it was hard to believe. That's what mattered. David secured the car seat, closed the door, and turned back to Jessica. Thank you for trusting your partner, for following through. As their car pulled away, Jessica looked down at Titan. He sat, gaze fixed on the departing vehicle, until it vanished into traffic, then turned his head up to her, eyes calm. You ready for the next one? She asked. Titan gave a soft huff, his version of acknowledgement. They stood together in the parking lot, the city buzzing around them. A police officer and her canine partner. Not just law enforcers, but guardians, healers. A team that had redefined what it meant to serve and protect. As a medical detection specialist, I can tell you that Titan's story isn't just a fluke. It's a glimpse into the future. Dogs like him can detect what our machines can't, sense what we can't see, and save lives in ways we're only beginning to understand. Ethan Bennett Carter is alive today because one dog refused to be ignored. Sometimes, the most powerful heroes walk on four legs.